morning, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you can hear me at the back. I'm struggling like many people at the moment with the cold. My name is Dolan. I'm Energy Program Coordinator and Senior Engineer with the Department of Education. I work as part of the Planning and Building Unit. We're located in Tullamore. We're responsible for the capital procurement of school projects. We've been working on low energy design since 1997, and we put together a program there, which is an acronym called the DART Energy Program, and focused on 4 key areas: design, awareness, research, and technology. It's informed by my colleagues in the Planning and Building Unit, and also through work with external partnerships. It's driven by our technical guidance documents, and we've embedded energy requirements in the documents, which are pretty much restrictive, but are producing in results. It's updated the program overall by continuing energy research projects. We have 39 different strands at the moment within the project. And we disseminate it through conferences like this in various publications. We've been supported very well in the past on a number of the strands by SCAI, and we've also done some cross-border work with the Southern Education and the Western Education Management Boards in Northern Ireland. And we've also been, I suppose, recognised at national and international level for the work that we've been doing. Now, I suppose some things that are particular to schools that are different to, say, hospitals or hotels that you have heard of or will hear later. The hours of operation are relatively short. They're not 24/7-hour operations. A primary school is open typically 183 days a year, post-primary 167, and would operate on an occupancy basis of 9 to 3, 9 to 4. Schools' needs are different than domestic or commercial needs in various areas. The technical ability on site varies greatly. A lot of the smaller schools wouldn't have caretakers at all, or might have part-time caretakers. Some of the larger schools would have caretakers, but again, their technical ability would vary dramatically. And energy is not a core function of the school's operation. They're there to educate the children and not necessarily to save energy. So it's not a core function. And solutions must be robust. And that's regardless of any technology that's going in. A school, our main guidance documents came out in 2004 that deals with a lot of the energy stuff. And we tested the school built, it was built in 2006 to the 2004 guidelines. In 2009, when the VRs were coming out, and it's achieved an A3 rating. And that is our rating that we look for on all new primary school projects, and a B1 on post-primary school projects. Colosh, the column here is a post-primary school. You see it in the far right-hand corner. At the moment, any school built in accordance with our technical guidance documents is capable of achieving over twice best international practice. Now, I'll straight away put my hand up and say that best international practice needs to be updated a little bit. So while it makes us look good, we're not actually as good as that. It should be down a little bit in best international practice. Colosh, the column then is a post-primary research project, and again, we're dropping that even further down. And we have 2 passive schools currently on site, and they'll reduce that energy even more so. So our Biomass Research and Demonstration project. Today I'm going to give you an overview of the program, some feedback that we got from our customers, the school principals, just a snapshot of the fuel supply chain, some discussion on our initial findings and conclusions to date. So the program was really put in place to test and evaluate biomass systems. Any system that we put into schools, or any design, we tested in a school project before it's rolled out nationally. The objective was to reduce the energy in use and reduce CO2 savings. And again, we weren't just testing biomass boilers. That wasn't the intention. We knew the technology worked for the world, but it was how that technology would fit in an Irish context with the other variables on a school site. One aspect, a small aspect, was to evaluate the appropriateness of combining solar with biomass. Another was to monitor, obviously, the performance of the systems, to develop a suite of case studies, and to develop a best practice guide. And Through the project, then we added another one, which was to evaluate the potential for an escrow model as well. So we have 15 schools in all on 14 different sites. They range from primary, post-primary, new build, refurbishment. As I said, there was 17 different boilers installed. There was 9 different M&E consultants, 8 different manufacturers, 13 different boiler models, and 13 different contractors. So we tried to get as big a mix as we could within the public procurement frameworks. We installed about 2,263 kilowatts of boiler power with a 392 ton reduction in CO2. And we were grant aided by SAI. Chris Buckley and Chris Hughes and the team worked very well with us on this project and assisted us both in a technical manner at times and in a financial manner as well. Just a quick snapshot of some of the projects. This is in Moyle, County Lisconnell. It originally had an oil boiler located in the far right-hand door with the oil tank in the room behind it. We converted that oil tank room into the fuel store and put the squeezed biomass boiler into the boiler house. The principal there, very happy with his front end unit. Cloughan National School was one of the first ones we did. The biomass boiler, the original oil boiler was in where that door is open there on the top of the left-hand picture. The oil tank was in the store room behind it, behind the doors. What we did was we put the buffer tank where the oil tank was, we put the new biomass boiler where the oil tank was, and then we put out on the back, you can see in the bottom left-hand corner, we put in a proprietary fuel store. And a few months later then we had to build a shed over the proprietary fuel store because the fuel supplier came along and overpressurized the store and basically swelled it out, blew the seams, and it sat back together again, but just leaked consistently. So we had to give it a bit of an umbrella a few months later. Kentstown National School was another project that we put in place, a containerized solution. This is one where we tried solar panels as well on it. And a very interesting thing was two schools, one of which I won't name, and Kentstown, happened to be on site the day the pallets were delivered. And I took a fist of pallets in the bag and I brought them into the principal and I said, we will be putting together an energy awareness package for you. But show the kids these and let them know that's what's firing the boiler in their school now. And I came back a month later to Kentstown and they had this fabulous display built, which the pupils themselves did. And they'd actually taken the pellets and made them back into trees and they performed the borders all around it. So I realised that we weren't just sticking in the heating system in the school, that this was actually had educational potential as well. And the other school I went back a month later to, and the principal, I asked her what happened to them and she says, oh, they're in the corner, I'm busy, I haven't time to deal with any of that. And what that showed was that you need champions inside. It's like anything. You need a champion local to help with these things along. If you haven't got that, to some degree you're wasting your time. This is a secondary school in Cork, again, where we put in a silo solution here, which worked quite well. I mean, they've worked in the agricultural industry for years and years indeed, and it actually worked quite well. Picture on the right, top right there, actually, I don't know what health safety, that's actually an installer welding something inside the boiler, the blue. St. Joseph's in Ballymun was 2 schools on one site with a shared boiler house. You can see it down in the middle there, and we upgraded that. All the projects we did, we improved the installation of them first. They were potentially possible cabinet wall and that installation material as well. This is another school in Burr. You can see the top photograph with the door open is where the original boiler was. Just dropped down to the middle right. That's not the local Burr fire engine. That was actually the boiler, an old solid fuel boiler that was in there. And the oil tank was in the other one. And again, just dropped down to the bottom and put the fuel store where the oil tank was and put the new biomass boiler in where the old boiler was. But I think the pictures give an indication that solid fuel or pellets, biomass, anything like that, do require space, and they are big boilers. And this was CBS in Mullingar, where we again put in we actually found it was cheaper to put in 2 boilers here than one, because of the size. And the boiler house is in the 2 louvered window areas in the bottom right of that picture. And we converted, we took off the big huge toilet area to the left of that there, which was causing a maintenance problem for them because they didn't need half the size of it, so we actually converted it into a fuel store and solved 2 problems for the price of one. And this was a new school project where we put in a wood chip installation in niche. So end user feedback. We did an independent survey with the school principals of the installations. They were asked 10 questions. We gave 10 statements and they had to either strongly agree or disagree with variations of 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. The first one was, has the biomass boiler benefited the school? By and large, they all agreed with it. The third one on the bottom, right, that was their answer to every question in the questionnaire. So we kind of discounted that. But what had happened there was the old principal left, the new principal had come in. The old principal told the new principal nothing about the systems whatsoever. And by the time she did the survey, she'd only been in school about a month and she wasn't very happy with it. So, but by and large, they felt it had benefited the school. Now, whether that was solely influenced by the fact that they got their school fully insulated at the same time, we're not quite sure of. Had they seen significant benefits in the running costs? Very mixed bag here. Was the biomass plant reliable? Well, 3 of the schools said it was. 5 of them, or 8 of them, 7 of them, sorry, had less than 6% reliability there, and you can see some of them were really poor at the reliable nature. Was the plant easy to maintain? Again, very much mixed bag. Were warranty issues or faults dealt with quickly and efficiently? So very low marks in here. Some very high ones as well, but they tended not to have any problems. Now, with caretaking and allocated staff correctly trained and able to carry out day-to-day checks, again, a mixed bag. And there was significant training given to all these staff members. I witnessed some for myself. But again, there was a significant nervousness on behalf of someone who doesn't know heating systems to start with, being told about how to deal with these biomass systems. Ash removal and disposal is not an issue. Most of by and large, that's the case. Fuel suppliers can be found and are reliable. I must admit that any of the fuel suppliers in the school, we did put a fuel monitoring system in all the installations, and sometimes they were faulty in the school. The suppliers responded very well and very quickly to the school's needs in that area, by and large. Is there competition in the choice of fuel? Again, mixed supply there. These can be geographically based as well. And the biomass integration in schools is a significant benefit and should be rolled out in the country. Again, very mixed results in the scenarios there. Individual average responses and the overall average responses. But by and large, the end result was that about a 60% satisfaction rate with the biomass systems, which wouldn't enable any department to roll out a scheme nationally on that basis. The fuel supply chain was looked at, and it was found to be very strong. This is the pellet, the 50 kilometre and 100 kilometre radius indicated there. Apart from Dolan and I suppose the west coast, there's good coverage there. And again, the chip, there's reasonably good coverage, and I know this is expanded even further since this slide was put together. Our initial findings is mixed feedback on the success of applications. Fuel delivery, there were issues there in some schools, nothing that hadn't been overcome and shouldn't present a problem in the future. Fuel storage, with a big problem with some of the earlier projects was unreclaimed pallets. The pallets stack up in the corners of the fuel stores and can become quite significant if not addressed within the fuel store design. Boiler systems, we insisted that there be a manual feed point put in on each boiler, and I was glad about that. One school ran for nearly 3 months with a contractor coming every day and putting back the pallets in because the problem with the auger feed system putting the interaction out. Cleaning that isn't really a major problem. The trick is obviously to minimise heat loss first and insulate, which we did. On-site technical capability is a big issue. There's a challenge to integrating new biomass systems with existing dated distribution heating systems. And there's been mixed results in the energy saving and paybacks, and I'll just quickly fly through some of these. At the second level, you can see the savings there, but the paybacks are pushing out. They're 23, 27, 36 years of payback there. Large primary schools, again, 18.6 and 6.6 paybacks. Now these paybacks are being further analysed, and I'm waiting to find a report on them. Again, the paybacks here are varying between 8.8, 6.6, 20.7 there, and 14.5. But they are achieving the savings of that. And again, with small primary schools, 9.7, 12.6, 11, and 12.7 paybacks there again. I suppose our initial findings on this, the service industry does need to develop in this area, and I know even since I gave this talk last, it's going through some significant changes in very hard times. The disruption potential to school management can be quite significant if these go wrong. We had one school where the principal was educating something like 7 different technicians that came to deal with a problem in the school over a number of weeks. A different technician coming every time. So he was out there explaining again to the technician, educating the technician on what his problems were, instead of being in the classroom educating the kids. Now, in a school where there is actually a principal that's not teaching, that's something. He can allocate, or she can allocate some time towards that. But where you have a teaching principal, you have a classroom with a book inside of 30 delighted, or 28, whatever, delighted school kids, because the principal's outside in the water house. But that's not sustainable in the school environment. There is significant potential education value there, and there is certainly a reduction in carbon emissions. The boiler combustion can vary, the sensitivity of them can vary. I would class them something like supermodels. There's some are very, very fussy, what they eat, what they burn. They can be very, very sensitive to the fuel type. Others will burn your arm if you're left in there long enough and work away fine. So there's that variation as well. Control strategies are quite important as well, that they're matched up to the systems. And as I said, 2 may be cheaper than 1 at the time that we're doing this. So just conclusions then. The study has certainly been very successful in discovering issues and challenges for the successful integration of biomass into schools. The fuel supply chain is strong. We see no issue there as such. Some of the sites were inconclusive and need further evaluation, and that is ongoing. The satisfaction rating for us has been a very big disappointing concern. And you know, the thing is that gets around, because 3 to 4 years ago I'd be getting maybe 2 or 3 calls a week for schools wanting to put in biomass heat systems into their school. I don't get anything this year at all. Principals talk, parish priest board members talk to each other when they meet, and a bad story will get around 10 times quicker than a good story, unfortunately. And my phone has stopped ringing from a biomass point of view. So the consumer confidence in the school environment is very low at the moment. I think the biomass industry needs to respond to this nationally, perhaps something along the lines that the fuels QA system is doing, to see if it can offer a response or a solution to this. And I think the next steps we're looking at is trying to develop more the ESCO approach, where the school will just be sold heat and they won't necessarily care how it's produced, and they won't have to deal with any of the maintenance issues or any of the headaches that's out there. And the problem with that is that it will require a secondary fuel to get that back up. But we've actually had to go, we took the intentional view that we didn't put in secondary fuel in these schools when we put the biomass in, so that we would find out if they weren't working. We've had to go back to significant amount of these schools, put in an oil as well, which does affect the payback and everything else. But we would hope that the biomass escrow model would have some potential for some of the schools here. Again, it would depend, the market would determine the scalability of that and the profitability of that from everyone's viewpoint. But that's our next steps. And I'd just like to draw your attention to a new energy website that the department are launching in conjunction with SEI, our partners on this website, on the 18th of November at that address there. And it will feature a lot more than just biomass, and it is targeted at both schools, parents, pupils, teachers, boards of management, contractors, designers, suppliers.